Good day everyone! For today's learning video, we are going to share to you about the story entitled In a Groove.
So before we start, we would like to introduce ourselves to you. My name is James Ryan Sarno.
I am Judith V. Aguilar. This is the list to be discussed. First, character. Second, setting. 3. Plot. Under this are exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement. Number 4 is related social issues, and number 5, moral lesson.
First, we would like to introduce the 7 characters, the main and the minor character of the story. Okay? So, the main characters and the minor characters are Masago, Takiheku, the Jomaru, Old Woman, Priest, and the Woodcutter.
The first character is Masago. Masago is Kanazawa no Takehiko's wife. She tells a Buddhist priest that she murdered her husband.
The second character is Kanazawa no Takehiko or Takehera. Kanazawa no Takehiko is a samurai. The events surrounding his death are the central mystery in a grove.
The third is Tajumaro. Tahumaro is a thief and rapist who for years has terrorized women in and around Kyoto.
The next is the old woman. The old woman, Masago's mother, she is distraught throughout her testimony.
The next is the policeman. The policeman arrested Tahumaro after Kanazawa no Takehiko's horse threw him.
Next is the Buddhist priest. The Buddhist priest passed Masago and Kanazawa no Takeheku on the road before Tajumaro met them.
Next is the woodcutter. The woodcutter who found Kanazawa no Takehiko's body as well as a comb and a broken rope.
For the additional character is High Police Commissioner and the medium. The High Police Commissioner, also known as Magistrate, he was the one who interviews the old woman, the woodcutter, the Buddhist priest, and the policeman.
The medium character is a person who acts as spiritual conduit and allows Kanazawa no Takehiko to give testimony from beyond the grave.
So the setting of the story is about 150 meters up Yamashina-roa in a grove in the hollow of the mountain. There are cedar trees and bamboos, where typically woodcutter found in the body in early morning and the incident day. Okay, so road from Sekiyama to Yamashina. So the priest met the murdered man and his wife at noon, the day before the incident.
Next is the plot of the story. The exposition of the story is by a woodcutter who has found someone's body in the bamboo groves near the road to Yamashina. The man's chest had been pierced by a sword, and the blood from the wound and on the ground had already dried up. As by the commissioner, the woodcutter denies having seen any weapon or a horse. The only objects which caught his attention were a comb and a piece of rope near the body. He also comments on the trampled leaves at the site, indicating to him that there has been a violent struggle.
Now, let's discuss the rising action of the story, where in the second, their third and fourth testify about the murder, where in the second testimony is given by a traveling Buddhist priest. He says that he saw the man. He was accompanied by a woman on the horseback with veil faced on the road from Sekiyama to Yamashina around noon the previous day. So that is a Buddhist priest, okay? So the man was carrying a sword, a bow, and a black quiver with arrows. So upon request, he describes the horse as a tall, short man, sorrel person to testify is a Homin, an acquired prisoner working under contract for the police. Okay? he was captured on an infamous criminal named Tajumaru. Tajumaru had even thrown from a horse a short manned sword, which was grazing nearby. He still carried the bow and the black quiver with arrows belonging to the deceased. So the Homen reminds the commissioner of the last year's murder of two women, which is attributed to the Tajumaru, and speculates that he might have done to the dead man's wife. The fourth testimony given to the police commissioner is from an old woman, so the mother of the missing Masago. So she identifies the dead man as her daughter's husband, Samurai Kanazawa no Takehiro, who was on his way to Wakaza, describing him as a benign person who wouldn't have been hated by anyone. She is convinced that her daughter didn't know any other man than Takehiro.
The climax of the story is that Tahumaru confesses. He states that he killed the man, but not the still missing woman, not knowing of her whereabouts. Upon first seeing Masago with her husband on the road, her veiled face revealed by a gas, he decided that he was going to rape her. He awakened the man's interest by pretending to have found a desert grave filled with the swords and mirrors, which he willing to sell for a modest price. He first lured the man away, subdued him and tied him to a tree, stuffing his mouth with leaves. He went then back to the woman, making up a story that her husband followed him. When Masago saw her tied up husband, she pulled a dagger from her bosom and tried to stab Tahumaru, but he managed to disarm and then violate her. Claiming that he initially had no intention of killing the man, Tahumaru set forth that after her rape, the woman clung to him, insisting that one of the two men who knew of her shame had to die, and that she would live with the survivor. Suddenly, determining that he wanted her for himself, Tahumaru untied Takehiro and killed him in the subsequent duel. When he turned to Masago, he found that she had fled in the meantime. Tahumaru took the man's weapon as well as the horse. Later, getting rid of the sword, he closes his account with the statement that he is accepting the most several punishment.
So the following action of the story is wherein there are three who claim that they killed Takehiro themselves. That's why the police commissioner confused who is the killer. So Masago also confessed. According to her, Tajumaru fled after the rape and her husband is still tied to the tree. Look at her with hate and contempt, ashamed that she had been raped. She no longer wished to live, but wanted him to die with her. Now, believing that he agreed on her plan, she plunged her dagger into his chest. She then cut the rope that bound Takehiro and fled from the site. Despite repeated attempts, she found herself lacking the strength to commit suicide as planned. At the end of her confession, she cries.
The claimed denouement comes from Takehiro's ghost, as delivered through a medium. The ghost says that after the rape, Tahumaru persuaded Masago to leave her husband and become his own wife, declaring that everything he did was out of love for her. Takehiro's disdain. She's not only agreed to follow him, but also ordered him to kill Takehiro. Tahumaru, repelled by the suggestion, kicked her to the ground and asked Takehiro if he should kill her. While Takehiro still hesitated, Masago fled into the forest. Tahumaru then cut Takehiro's bands and ran away. Takehiro grabbed Masago's fallen dagger and flung it into his chest. Shortly before he died, he sent someone creep up to him and pulled the dagger from his chest. For us, there are no resolution of the story. because they don't know who is the real killer. The story circle only in the multiple perspectives and have no definitive truth, just the testimony of the various people.
In addition, this is tricky story that revolves only to Takehiro's death. This is a murder mystery that there is no solution. So, in this testimony of the three people, to claim being a killer is contradicted to one another.
The related social issues that we come up is the truthfulness uncovers oneself for their own sake. Though it is evident that the testimonies cannot all be true, it is also hard, though not impossible, to objectively conclude what really transpired within the group. They interpret much of our world from second-hand information and even that it's subject to the personal biases and beliefs. Similarly, all the facts in the story are second-hand and everything is hearsay.
There is an overload of information but no solid evidence to arrive at a consensus, which makes one wonder if too much of details in reality are buzzwords rather than clarify what each character narrates is the perceived version and not the absolute truth. It makes the reader accept the fickleness of human, understanding the reality and the elusive nature of truth. Guess the author's argument here is that impossible to attain absolute truth despite the best attempts to be dispassionate observers, ultimately are bound by the subjective of the minds.
The moral lesson of the story is that people will alter the truth to make them look better. It teaches people to analyze the fact and not just make assumptions.
So before this end, I want to share to you the quotes of Jean Harris. When people cannot change things, they change the words.
They are being self-deception. They just believe what they say to themselves, even if it is wrong. Always do this yourself will not benefit and they only live in lies.
Again, this is James Ryan A. Sarno.
And I'm Judith D. Aguilar. Thank you for listening.